Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Dope. We are going to discuss the newest Doctor Who episode, War of the Sontarans. Very excited to talk about this. Been waiting for this. Sorry, it's coming a couple days late here. But we are excited to have a really fun spoiler discussion about this newest episode of Doctor Who. And joining me today is not my beard because I shaved it for reasons. But joining me today, I have Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie.
Hello, that's why you look different, because you shaved your beard, you got a baby face.
I have a baby face.
Something's different about Maui.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a reading of Ted Lasso, and so
yeah.
I shaved it down to my mustache, and then I got rid of my mustache this morning. So I have a 5 o'clock shadow, but that's about it. So.
It looks
Oh, well, thank you. And also joining us, we have Crystal. Hey, Crystal, how you doing?
Hello, doing good. Thanks for having me back.
So yeah, like I said, we're talking about War of the Sontarans today. It's going to be full spoilers, so warning on that. I'll put a little thing at the bottom. So before we get into the deep into the weeds of it, non-spoilery thoughts on this episode. Stephanie, go.
I thought it was much more structured than the first episode. I also thought it felt a lot more like Doctor Who. Like I got some of those good vibes that I love. It still has a way to go, I think. I think we have similar problems that we were talking about in our last episode.
Okay. And Crystal, what about you? What do you think?
Well, I wasn't here for the last episode, but I feel like this episode was less of a hot garbage fire than the first episode, personally. It was okay. Like it was like a meh episode of Doctor Who, but it was definitely more watchable than a lot of the stuff that I've seen out of the Chibnall era. Like for me anyway, like I didn't get too terribly bored, but it was good. It was good. It wasn't like an amazing episode, but it was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this was a vast improvement from the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think structurally this was much more exciting, much better paced. I love the Sontarans. They're ridiculous, and I love them. So like I really enjoyed them being back. Yeah, I just think it was a much stronger entry. Not enough to alleviate my fears about this mini series as a whole. Also had me wondering why it's being called a mini series. I'll get into that a little bit later. But all in all, I liked it. I will say. That's our non-spoilery thoughts. So from here on out, I'm going to put this up here. Spoiler warning. Feel free to comment in the chat if you feel the need to. And yeah, let's dive into it. So, I'll just kind of give a really quick recap. I don't want to spend too much time recapping the actual beats of the episode. I really want to talk about, a few different things, which I'll ask y'all as we go through. But basically, this episode deals with the Sontaran plan to invade Earth, the history of Earth. Like they're attacking us through time, and we split up our main three pretty quickly right after they get together. The plot is pretty much taken down. Like the Sontarans are mostly taken down by Carvanista and what's his name? John? What's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
The new companion?
New companion. Dan. Thank you. Dan.
Dan.
And yeah, when we get a little bit more with Swarm and bad makeup. What's her name?
Azure.
And that's my quick couple sentence just summation. Like the War of the Sontarans set in the Crimean War. Our history. Historical figure is Mary Seacole, who I didn't know about, and love her. I thought she was a wonderful addition to the show. So I'm interested to hear what y'all have to say about that. The first thing I want to hear y'all talk about is how they resolve the cliffhanger from the previous episode. Crystal, I'll start with you on that.
I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't care enough about the first episode because it was such a mess that I didn't even really I pretty much watched this almost as if it was a standalone episode. So I mean, it handled it, but it wasn't something that I was like, "Oh, I'm glad that they've resolved that." I was like, "Okay, yeah, yay, let's get on to the actual, give me something interesting now," because I was going into this episode, I was still pretty frustrated with the previous episode, and I was like, I'm not sure this is going to be great. So I honestly didn't pay a huge amount of heed to it.
Okay. Steph, what about you?
I can't remember what the cliffhanger was.
See, that's funny. The first episode was so confusing. Yeah. So at the end of the first episode of this, they're on the TARDIS. It's not working. It's just completely shut down, and the flux is coming for them.
Oh yeah, and they
seemingly
put up the wall
like
around
envelops them.
Yes.
So okay, I guess I'll say my thoughts about it. I thought it was very poorly handled because they're like, oh, they're just okay, and now they're on Earth in the Crimean War. We have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
And they never explain what happened.
Yeah.
So I was very upset with that. So like out of the gate, I'm like, come on, guys. Like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. How? Maybe I'll understand it later, but you know, I don't like when things episode to episode aren't resolved, or season to season aren't resolved. So if you're telling a story, like, complete the story. If you're leaving it on a cliffhanger, resolve it in the next episode. Don't just abandon it completely, especially something as high stakes as them seemingly getting devoured by whatever the big bad is for the season. This is the titular flux coming for them, and it has seemingly gotten them at the end of the episode, and they're completely fine just on Earth, and we have no idea why.
I mean, in a way, though, there have been other Doctor Who episodes where it's been like, oh no, here's the big bad, everybody's gonna die, and then it's pretty quickly and poorly.
I'm fine with resolving it quickly in the next episode, but I want to understand what's happening.
That's fair, yeah.
So there's that. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about, let's talk about the villains of the episode, the Sontarans. What did you think about the main storyline with the Sontarans trying to take over the Earth throughout time? Steph, let's start with you on this.
Well, I first of all want to say that it was like great to see the Sontarans like be scary. We talked about this during our villains episode, and me and my fiance were talking about it during the episode, that we don't really see the Sontarans as that scary because our first introduction to them was Strax. And Strax is not scary. But I kind of like the way they reworked the makeup. And, you know,
so that's actually, they reworked it back to a more classic look, which I thought was kind of cool.
I love it when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, put their humor and their, what's the word I'm looking for? Ignorance and their love of war all back together. So I just kind of like I really like how they showed up in this episode. Those are my strongest thoughts about that.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm eating my dinner because my bus was a half an hour late to get me home, so I'm starving.
You're fine.
Sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead. Either way. Crystal, what about you?
I was so, especially after our villains episode where we were discussing all these, I was so happy to see the Sontarans be scary and actually have like their military might was back. I love the design because it, like you said, it takes them back to some of those classic elements, and I was super excited. I liked the whole, they kept some of the humor in there where he's like, and I wanted to ride a horse. So like I'd like little things like that. And they kept all the other classic Sontaran features, which was just awesome. Mm-hmm. but they made them more formidable, I think, both in the Crimean War era and in like the modern day. It's not like they got any less scary depending on what time period you were in, which was really nice. I was worried that they were going to be like, oh, but they're less scary in the future for some odd reason, because they've done weird stuff like that before. But
well,
I
yes,
think I was
but
like,
I will say this though. They can't shoot for shit.
no, I was just about to mention that
Abby-
apparently there's stormtroopers in
Yep,
this
that's what Abby said too.
in this particular season.
They were like at one point they were like 3 feet away from Dan.
Yeah, and they were just
And it was
missing.
like 4 or 5 of them, and they're
Yeah.
shooting fully automatic laser weapons. Couldn't even
Yeah.
singe his coat.
Yeah, no, it literally, I was watching it and I was like, it's like watching a bunch of stormtroopers.
Right. But like,
But at the same time, it's
Mhm.
still better than like the comedic little like, oh, look at the funny potato people that we were given in previous New Who series, I think.
yeah. I will say when they fought the British Army, they seemed to be much more effective and took everybody out like that. You know, so it's I just hate the plot armor bulletproof vest that main characters have on shows like this. Just don't put them in that specific situation where they're so close that it's just going to take me out of it if they don't get hit by something. You know,
Right. It's like
just,
right a different way for them to get from point A to point B.
right. It's very annoying. Like usually like the doctor stops them and talks to them in circles, right? Like I can buy, right? The doctor's clever enough to like get them like off their guard and talking instead of shooting them. Depending on which era of the doctor we're talking about. But what did you think about the plot? You know, the whole temporal like explosion, like throughout time, like invading our history. Did you like that? Because I was wondering, like, are the Sontarans clever enough to come up with a such a complex plot, like to take over the world? It was interesting.
I think they are. At least going off of so again, I'm used to classic Sontarans, which like they do experiments and they are actively seeking out new ways to conquer, and if they were able to find this weakness, it makes sense to me that they would exploit it and viciously. So it checks out for me. Like, not to be pedantic, but I'm getting tired of time rifty stuff though. Like I like traveling in time, but there's been so many different plot lines in Who where it's like there's some sort of weird like rift at this point in time that like connects to this other thing that it felt kind of like a little going back to the same well one too many times in its own weird way.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the Sontarans would be smart enough to do that. Like they're not idiots. They're just very pedantic, and militaristic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Steph, what you about to say something?
Yeah, I definitely think they're smart enough to, strategic enough for sure. I also kind of agree with the weird. It's the time rift and thing. The fact that it's confusing. Right? Like it's like needlessly complicated. Like they're in the past and they've always been there, but then when they were in the future, they just got there, and that was confusing enough by itself. Like that's why I was saying before we started recording, I have to watch Doctor Who episodes like a couple times to like even remotely understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was complicated.
Well, here's the other thing that. So I mentioned, like, I don't know why I'm starting to doubt why this is being called a miniseries, because that seemingly was a standalone episode. There was some stuff that referred back to like the overarching season-long plot, but the Sontaran War had nothing to do with the Flux. Like they just snuck in behind the armor around the world, which we actually have not seen either, which was annoying to me. Like, we don't really see Carvanistas people's like covering of the world at all. So like you forget that it's there. So it's like, I wish they would have shown that just so that we have perspective on that. Like show like that there's no sun in the sky because we're cut off from being able to see it. Something like that. So that's something that bugged me about that. I really enjoyed Dan's role throughout this.
Me too.
Because he's distinctly not the Doctor, not particularly capable, but has a lot of like gumption.
He's got heart.
He's got heart, and his parents were hilarious.
Yeah,
It was like the way that I loved, like in the Russell T Davies era of humans being a part of it. They still feel quintessentially human through it. They don't feel like they are turning into the Doctors. It's something I've mentioned many times when we talk about functions of companions and humans on Doctor Who, and everybody feels so groundedly human, which I really, really appreciate.
Yeah, and I was really worried that I'm really worried about getting a new companion, especially with Yaz staying on. But I actually am really liking the kind of foil and back and forth they have with each other, where Yaz is obviously like very experienced, knows how things works, has like gotten up her bravery, she knows how to talk to aliens and all this stuff, and then Dan's just like, okay, I can do this. I think they work really well together as a pair. I'm liking Dan more than I thought I would, which I hate.
Okay, so let's switch to what's going on with Yaz and Vendor in this episode. So they're in some weird temple in these like floating Toclafane like guardians are asking if they're here to repair. We have no idea what they're talking about. We're taken, to this room where there's like circle of people. I can't tell if they're holograms or what. Like I'm not exactly sure what they are, but obviously they're powering something or protecting something, and two of them are like broken, and they're asking them to fix it, and we don't understand why or what this is. Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. But like you were saying, Stephanie, Yaz, it seems way more comfortable now. So when this thing is like, "Are you here for repair?" She looks at her hand. She has written on her hand, WWTD. Like, let me make sure I got the acronym right. What would the Doctor do? Which it was awesome. She looks at her hand and says, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely here to help repair." Something that the Doctor would say. Though she's obviously not as capable as the Doctor. Right? She doesn't actually fix anything, but she's buying time and getting in and gathering information so that when the Doctor does appear, she can, hey, here's the update, which I appreciate. I really like the dynamic, even though they are apart. I like the dynamic. I like how empowered she is. But
I like Yaz so much better this season.
Yeah, me too. Crystal, I see you frowning your face. It seems like you disagree.
Scrunchy face.
Yeah, I disagree. I'm just getting strong Clara vibes from Yaz. Is my problem. She's almost to the point of overconfident and like another mini Doctor. Like I feel like her character is like a hair away from being another mini Doctor, and we've had that trope before, and I just don't like it.
See, I didn't feel that at all. That's surprising.
I did.
Tell me a bit about, expand on that a little bit more. Like, what about her gave you mini Doctor vibes?
Especially when she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna repair," and like she's running through the way that she like introduces herself to is it Dan, the way that she's like she lists off of all of her credentials and stuff like that, and she gets kind of like I know that she's just buying time when she doesn't really land. She gets kind of like transported. Like I know she's just buying time. But it comes off like the way that she was just doing it reminded me so much of Clara, and I was like, oh no, here we go again. Like we've done this before and it wasn't fun the first time.
See, I got more Rose Tyler-y type of vibes from her confidence in the way that she held herself. That for me,
No.
like I felt that was I'm not saying that's how you should feel. I'm
Yeah.
saying that's how I felt. Right? Like I felt more like Rose Tyler-y, like Martha Jones, like capable, but they're not actually fixing the situation. They are gathering information to give to the doctor.
And they just
that's
have
kind of
the
more what I
kind of,
felt from her in that.
like knowledge and confidence of a seasoned companion, kind of like Amy in the later seasons too.
Yeah, see, Amy, I feel like becomes mini doctor-y.
Yeah, Amy does
a bit
become mini
more.
doctor.
Yeah, I feel like she was the first one for me to really feel like a mini doctor. Like she felt like a mini doctor. River felt like a mini doctor. Well, River just basically was another doctor at that
River
point.
was written to be.
She gets a pass.
She gets a pass.
Yeah.
Like her.
I like Vendor, but like in here again is the problem with like the pacing and the structure. You know, most of this was dedicated to the war or the Sontaran part of the plot line. And if you remove the Flux part of it out, I think you still have a very solid episode of Doctor Who. But with the Flux put in there, I'm not getting enough time devoted to the main storyline. So I'm still like, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea how the Sontarans connect to the Flux. It seems like they don't connect at all. And that's weird. That's weird. This is a 6-part miniseries. I feel like every episode, everything needs to be in the service of that main story.
I can't tell if they were trying to imply that what the Flux was doing, like, created this kind of backdoor for the Sontarans. I was like, is that implied? Because I feel like that might be a possibility, but it is never really discussed, like how they. We know the why they're Sontarans, but it's the how that is problematic here.
So as Carvanistas people were shielding the Earth, they swooped in before the covering was complete to try and get the Earth because they still feel like the Sontarans have claim on it from the first appearance of the Sontarans when that one Sontaran plants a flag on Earth. Like just one lone Sontaran plants a flag on Earth. I claim Earth for the Sontaran Empire.
Right. The why is there. They're there because they're Sontarans. Right. This is what they do.
and they swooped in under that. I don't know how they got that much equipment in that quickly because it seemingly was like just like a 30-second like thing, you know. So that was kind of weird. Okay, what about this week's historical figure, Mary Seacole? What did we think of her? Crystal, what do you think of Mary Seacole?
I thought it was a great choice, personally. Crimean War is not a time period that Doctor Who has really messed with very much. It was nice to have a strong, independent, historical female character that wasn't shackled by society, so to speak, because a lot of times when we get the strong historical female characters, like they're like, oh, but there's all these societal rules, and Mary Seacole's like, screw that. This is my hotel, these are my rules. And I really liked that, and I thought that it worked well. I thought that Crimean War worked well as a setting for this conflict with the Sontarans. Yeah, sure, there's like a dozen other good battles that they could have chosen, but I felt like it just worked really, really nicely. And that kind of 1800s time period is kind of a fan favorite time period anyway when we go visiting eras. Mm-hmm. So I thought it worked well. I thought she was great. I thought it was a lovely addition.
I thought she was a lot of fun. Deacon's really into your hat.
I was gonna say, what is your cat doing?
I love you too, Dee Dee. He just like stuck his nose into my hat. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I agree. I'm not crazy about the historical episodes. I never really, especially the war ones. I won't say historical, I'll say the war ones. I'm not crazy about war episodes, never have been. But this was a solid time period and kind of like backdrop for this episode. I think there was like really good moments with the historical figures, and the battle was like the fact that all the soldiers died and there were so many injured, and you see it weighing on the commander. I was like, this is a kid's show. But there's
I feel like they need to be reminded that Doctor Who is a kid's show. It doesn't feel like it hasn't felt like a kid's show to me in a long time.
Reminded that it's an adult show too, because like last episode we were talking about how they were like spoon feeding us stuff. So I'm like going back and forth a bit. I'm feeling a bit of whiplash. But yeah, and
wouldn't be the first time Doctor Who's gotten in trouble for being too dark, though.
Yeah, it's simultaneously too dark, but also like spoon feeding us the plot. Like right,
it's too spelled out. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Mary Seacole. I kind of want her to stick around. Like I loved her so much. It didn't become like let's spend an episode explaining it, like spelling out exactly why you should love this historical figure so much. They do that in other episodes with historical figures where like they lean on that too hard. Like as much as I love, like Vincent and the Doctor, like that's a style of story that should be done very, very rarely. And it feels like it turns into more of an I guess what the show was originally intentioned to be, more of an educational type of Stephanie and Deacon. I like it. More of an educational kind of show when they do the traveling back in time and whatnot. But it kind of distracts from like the main plot, and she like I felt like she was kind of perfectly integrated into like the plot, both as a character and as a function of moving it forward, which I really appreciated. And she didn't, and like you said, Crystal, like she didn't feel shackled by what society would say that her place was. She decided what her place was, and she wasn't taking anybody's shit. And I appreciated that very much, especially because like the lieutenant was a douche. He was the worst.
Oh my god!
Like, I mean, the actor was doing a great job. He's supposed to be a douche, but like, God, I hate that character.
He did a great job being a total jackass.
Yes.
Yep.
Like the entire time, I was like, would someone just shoot that?
Yeah, I really appreciated his whole arc, like how he was just like really overconfident, and then didn't listen to the doctor, and then like got his entire like regiment killed, and he plays dead to escape.
Yeah,
and then like goes like hat in hand to her like, oh, I need your help, but then still kind of does the evil thing, right, and kills those Sontarans instead of like, no, they're defeated, they're leaving, like we got them out of here, there's no need to inflict any more loss of life, is what the doctor is saying. And yeah, what did y'all think about that? Because like the Sontarans killed a bunch of humans, so he killed a bunch of Sontarans, but it feels different to me, right? Like killing when they're like retreating versus killing face to face in the heat of battles, I think are two very different things for me. So like I thought that was pretty despicable, and I love a righteous anger doctor.
Exactly.
I like yeah, it's like, oh, this feels like 12 getting angry at humanity, or 9 getting angry at humanity, or 10 getting angry at humanity, or 11 really any doctor getting angry at humanity. Like it felt like we get that all the time, like humans like do something stupid and the doctor's like, ugh, why do I save you? You're terrible. And I just love those moments. So what did y'all think about that plot twist?
I think there's something very Doctor Who about it, because like you said, we always get these moments where the doctor gets like pissed off, and I love it because it always just adds a little bit more like structure to the Doctor. And I feel like this miniseries that we've got going so far, we haven't had any really good moments with just the Doctor yet, you know? Like, she's kind of all over the place, and she's bouncing around, and she's saying random things here and random things here, and it's kind of wild. And so I don't know if the righteous anger, it was just something familiar, you know? Maybe not in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Crystal, what do you think?
I think that the whole situation and the circumstances really fit the lieutenant's character. You know, he literally was told, if you go fighting tomorrow, y'all gonna die. And he was like, we're gonna do it anyway. And he basically led everybody into a slaughter. And it just totally fits that he would try to get back, even as the Sontarans were retreating. So I like that they kind of sticked with this slimy jackass of a character, like all the way through. I liked that his character didn't like change for the better. It was nice to see the Doctor's righteous fury come back. I agree. We've really been missing that from her. In this series, we haven't had many of those like moments where she's just like, I show up, I do the thing, I save you, and you still like mess it up. Like, why? Like why? Why do you never learn? And it was nice to kind of have that back. Yeah, it was a nice touch. I mean, it kind of sucks for the Sontarans. I'm sure they'll be back. I hope they'll be back. They'll be back.
Like, you think they'll be back in this miniseries?
No.
So,
they might bring like one or two back, but I think they'll be.
So if they're not going to be back in this miniseries, what was the point of the episode?
That's the question.
Like, in terms of like that part of the episode, like what was the point of that?
I feel like it was like to separate Yaz out and get her to the temple-y place, and then they were like, well, let's do this interesting other story, while also giving Dan some time to stand on his own 2 feet. And then like, I'm with you on this, Maui, where I don't feel like this is as much of a miniseries as it's being plugged as, because the Sontaran plot, like, unless they come back in a later episode, which I don't get the feeling that they do, because the whole point is that he kills them all as they're retreating. Like, from what we have seen, they're all dead. So I'm not quite sure where it's going, but I feel like it was just supposed to be like something to be going on while we advance this weird temple stuff that I actually felt was dragging the episode down.
Yeah, I enjoyed
the 2 villains that I don't even like.
And next episode is Cybermen? Is that the next one? I think.
I don't remember.
I feel almost like what the miniseries is going to do is do like a big Doctor Who bad for each episode. Maybe they'll do something for the final one where the big bads team up, kind of like what happened with the Pandorica, but I don't know. Yeah. Like, that just seems to be where this is headed.
Yeah. Which I don't hate, but not sure.
If it's supposed to be one continuous storyline, like, there's no reason that a lot of these big baddies are going to be anywhere near each other or interacting or overlapping with each other, really.
Unless they've all struck a deal with Swarm and Azure, who are seemingly the actual main villains of this story.
I don't like them.
Well, and let's shift over. So that's like that's the Doctor's kind of plot line. Let's switch back to Yaz and Vendor at the Temple of Atropos. So shortly after they arrive and they're trying to figure out how to fix stuff, they have no idea how to fix stuff. Swarm, Azure, and someone is called the passenger arrives in the temple. They've been there before, and when the Toclophane like guardian thing says like, "Are you here for repair?" Azure like disintegrates it with a touch. And they're railing on about the planet Time and how time is evil and all this other stuff. As far as I know, and I've watched all of New Who and almost all of Classic Who. This is not something I've ever heard of before. And so I'm assuming that what we're seeing is the Timeless Child era doctors past coming back to haunt them. But what do we think about it? If that's like, do you think that's the case here? Stephanie, let's start with you on this. Do you think that that's the case? Do you think that this is like dealing with like the Doctor's actual home planet, maybe?
I hope so, but I really wish it was more explicit already, because I said going into this, I really don't want them to drop the Timeless Child plotline, and it kind of feels, I mean, I know the Doctor's busy doing other stuff, but it kind of feels like they already did. Like, if this has to do with the Timeless Child stuff, to tell me, like, like, say it outright, so I'd just be more excited about it. And we know we've got this whole, like you said, this whole new kind of background for the Doctor. Let's build on it. I'm excited about it. Like, hype it up. I don't know. So I hope so.
I'm not excited about it, but if you did it, then like I need to actually understand what it all means. So
exactly. And if you're gonna make this big jump to change the Doctor's whole past, then do it.
Right. You know, and I don't want it to be a thing where it's just like super, super vague, and then in the very last episode we get an exposition dump. Like, I want
exactly
morsels throughout this thing that were like each episode we're uncovering more layers of her history and her past. You know, like if you're gonna make this about that, then make it about that. You know, and as much as I loved the Sontaran storyline, perhaps the time could have been better used to give us more glimpses into her past. They could have done a thing where every episode we see a different past Doctor that we've never seen before. We could see, like, I was hoping to see Joe Martin come back, because Joe Martin, even though like I don't like the adding on all the extra, like, you know, lifetimes of the Doctor, Joe Martin was amazing as the Doctor in that episode, and I would love to see more of her. So I was hoping that like maybe we would also see not only like the greatest hits, but maybe we would also see like, you know, Doctors that we've never seen before, and you can get all sorts of guest stars to be the Doctor for an episode, and you know, maybe have some fun with it. But this all seems pretty dour so far, so I don't have hopes for that at all. Crystal, what about you?
I can't stand the Timeless Child thing. I'm not excited about it. You can't just retcon all of Who because you feel like it. Although I will agree, I do like Joe Martin, but I'm having a brain fart. I had something to say. Maui, could you repeat and jumpstart my brain, please?
Well, I'll just fill in a little bit here. So like I said, I'm also not a big fan of the Timeless Child. And I'm, you know, like I said, I'm a big fan of Joe Martin, but you know, but it happened, right? It's now part of the lore. So you need to flesh it out more. And I think part of the reason I don't like it is because I don't understand it and I don't know what the implications are. It doesn't change the fact that we've seen the, you know, from first Doctor to now, those lives of the Doctor, but I need to understand more about the events leading up to it. And I didn't like how it was handled in the previous season. And so my hope was that this would give us more context so that I could actually accept these changes a little bit better. And
I don't feel like
that's
it's
upsetting me.
to. Like,
I don't
first
feel like
of all, the whole temple of Atropos or Apotros or whatever we're calling it this week. Yeah, I think that the whole like the planet of time sounds so gimmicky that I'm very wary of where this is going. If this does tie into the timeless child thing, like I really didn't want it to go the gimmicky route, and having a planet literally called time already just feels so gimmicky. I think there's still plenty of space for them to tie in the timeless child if they want to and to do it well. But after the next episode, if they don't start on that path and it's not obvious, we're going to get stuck with some sort of info dump somewhere if that's where this is all leading to. I really like Vinder. I think he's not utilized very well.
He has nothing to do so far.
I know.
He's like literally just been reacting to stuff.
He's just kind of there, and then like him and Yaz get turned into like little portal people or whatever. And that little ring at the end, like I'm like, use that dude. Like he's interesting. I want to see what can come from that. I can't stand Azure and Swarm. I'm sorry. Azure, I don't know what's going on with that makeup.
I'm so happy you agree with me on that. I hate the makeup so much. Stephanie likes it and I hate it.
It looks like a toddler in the 80s went into their mom's makeup drawer and did it themselves. It's got like the 80s blue and pink going on. I don't know what's happening. Swarm, I know you like his design, Maui, but his design to me looks like if Tim Shaw from one of the earlier Jodie Whittaker episodes and Eldrad from Classic Who had a baby, it would be Swarm. And I'm just like, come on. There's so many other things we can do.
I will say this. I loved Swarm's design in the first episode. In the darkness, it was very affecting. And he was usually shrouded in darkness in that first episode. In this episode, in a well-lit place, it looked a little silly.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Like,
but also, I'm vibing with his shoulder pads. And I love them.
That's fair. Bring shoulder pads back. However, like, there's also just not enough. Like, they showed up in this episode for such a short amount of time that I was just kind of like, why are you here?
Yeah, they need time to breathe. They need time to be evil. They need time to directly affect the Doctor. And this is, once again, like, this is where my problems with the structures come. You need time to make us care about these villains. You need time to make us scared of these villains. And having them just do something in the last 5 minutes of each episode, or like have 30-second like mind conversations with the Doctor, isn't enough. They did the same thing with the Master last season, where like all of the conversations between him and the Doctor were taking place in her head, and he was only there for a certain amount of time. But besides that, she's in like memories, right? And they weren't giving this new Master time to do his thing when he came back. I thought he was much more effective in Spyfall as opposed to when he came back in Timeless Child. One of the questions that was said, or one of the things that was said that I think is like a mystery, is time is evil and it will seek its own. So they're talking about time as a physical planet, but they're also talking about time still as the concept itself. This is what the automated priest thing said. So is the flux time itself? Is the big bad time itself? Are they doing a red herring where Swarm and Azure aren't actually the big bads of the season? Like, is it another twist like Carvanista in the first episode? I don't know. Like, so I guess that's one of my questions there.
I honestly feel like that's the direction it's going, unfortunately. Because I don't think the way that they're phrasing it and the way they're trying to like almost purposefully be like kind of mysterious about time and mention it, and I feel like that's the direction it's unfortunately going. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a twist where like Azure and Swarm have this like pruning job, almost like the TVA and Loki, where it's like to protect things, and it's like some sort of twist at the end where, oh, they're not actually bad. Like it wouldn't surprise me if that sort of thing happened at this point. But I'm hoping not.
So what if the weird pedestal people, like what if they're keeping time in check, and like now that two of them two of them were broken, and then like they melted, or maybe one of them was broken, one or two of them were broken at the beginning, and then they destroyed a third.
Yeah.
But then they put Vendor and Yaz on the pedestals to replace them. Like, what if those things are the things that are keeping the flux in check, and as they burn out, it's freeing the flux? Like maybe the flux is just like concentrated, corrupted time. It's like entropy that is going to just like devour the universe in like anti-time or something like that.
There's still a lot of development that needs to go into making that happen.
Exactly. It's like, that sounds great. That sounds like Doctor Who. I need like solid, something solid for this plot to sit on.
Right. And
I almost felt like the temple plot didn't belong in what was going on in the rest of the episode half the time, because it just.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I don't even remember Yaz and
Vendor.
like going up on the pedestals. I'm like,
we didn't see that. So you don't remember it because we never actually saw it happen.
Okay.
When the Doctor arrived, they were already on the pedestals.
Already plugged in.
So we never actually see them get put on the pedestals. Swarm and Azure are in there, monologuing and whatnot at Yaz, and Yaz is like, and they already know everything about Yaz because they seem to move through time differently.
Yes.
And they like, he even knew what would the Doctor do on her hand. He knew that was there. He knew her name. He knew Vendor's name. And like, this is the first time we've met. And he's like, for you, this is the first time we've met. Kind of similarly to that woman in the first episode that was like, oh, like, I know you already. The lady that got displaced by the Weeping Angel, which we got no follow-up on that yet.
There's too much going on.
There's too much going on, right? Because
Like,
we didn't address.
I was wondering that too. I watched this entire episode. I was like, where did she go?
Yeah.
Too many questions.
Another thing from the first episode that popped up for a split second and then never got addressed again is the dude from the 1800s was in that temple for a second.
Yeah.
He was talking to her and then just like walked off, and we never saw him.
And that was it.
And that was it.
Like if this was a binge show, like one that we could watch straight through, I feel like that would be worlds easier, because I'm forgetting all these different plots in a week. I mean, it's only been a few days and I already don't remember half the episode because there's so much going on.
It would have been better if they did what they do with other series over here, which is they'll do like a premiere night where on TV they'll be like, it'll air the one, and then like you can get on player like all of them. So you can just literally sit there and watch the entire thing through in a night if you want. Because again, looking back, I feel like I probably should have taken notes during the first episode if I want to understand what happens in 2 more episodes, because I'm sure they're going to like reference little obscure hints and stuff that they hid in the first episode. I'm going to be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't remember any of this. What are you talking about?
I just pulled up Guardian co.uk website, their recap of the show, and the reviewer is saying, I'm going to read exactly what he said. here. This is interesting. This actually is very interesting because maybe Swarm and Azure are more significant than I realized. It says, and did I miss a trick last week? There was lots of speculation that rather than simply absorbing some energy as he killed novice division member Katox, the change of actor playing Swarm from Matthew Needham to Sam Spruill, along with the special effects, indicated that he had undergone a form of regeneration in Chapter 1.
How am I supposed to know?
Yeah, how am I supposed to know that?
Notably, he said he was renewed at last, just as Patrick Troughton had described his change from William Hartnell as the Doctor in 1966. I've been renewed, in a series that threatens to reveal more about the origins of the Timeless Child and where the Time Lords obtained the power to regenerate that seems potentially significant.
Okay, I'm a classic Who fan, and I would have had to like Google that.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, that's connected to Troughton. Like that is.
But
no.
Yeah,
it's funny though, because I was thinking that in the first episode, I didn't realize that the actors had changed because it's such heavy makeup. And
Yeah.
I felt like they had similar voices. I didn't realize that the person portraying them it changed. But for a second, when they seemingly regenerated, they absorbed that person's power and then like youthified, right? And went from looking all like shriveled up and disheveled to healthy again. For a split second, I was just like, is this connect? Like, is he of the same race as the Doctor, not the Time Lords, but the Doctor from the Timeless Child? Like, is he from that other universe? I think I even mentioned that in our first review. Is he from that universe that she is originally from? Like, maybe everybody in that universe does that regeneration thing, or so, because he doesn't seem to be the same species, but maybe he's from the same universe, and that regeneration thing is a thing that is more commonplace in that universe. I don't know.
I feel like. Go ahead, Crystal.
Anyone else want to know what the hell is going on with the passenger?
Yeah. I would. He's muscle right now.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, he shows up, he's mentioned, and then he pretty much disappears from the episode. Like, he's just like background noise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, unless we missed them, I don't think we've had any hints about his deal.
No, he just kind of appeared. We didn't see him at all in the first episode.
Yeah, he just showed up.
And when they popped into the Temple of Atropos, he was just there with them. Like, they were a trio now. We don't know.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy.
Because I was like, where did this dude come from?
There was no fanfare, and he doesn't speak, so we don't really have any frame of reference for who he is at this time.
Okay. I'm just making sure I wasn't losing my mind.
No, not at all. Not at all. What you got, Steph?
What? Oh, me?
Yeah, you were about to say something.
I was just going to say, I'm liking what I'm picking up, but I'm not picking up very much of it because it's everywhere, and it's not solid enough. Like I said earlier, it feels like all these different levels, and I'm having to climb over here and then come down here to pay attention to this plot, and up here, and if it was simplified without spoon feeding me, it would be so much like easier to watch almost. That's what I'm like hoping comes. I'm hoping it gets simpler as the series goes on.
Couple trivia things from The Guardian that I'll read off that y'all might enjoy. This episode is the first time the Sontarans have appeared as the main titular protagonists in a Doctor Who adventure since the Sontaran stratagem / Poison Sky in 2008. Although Commander Ka was also the main foe in the Sarah Jane Adventures story, The Last Sontaran, released in the same year. Since then, they have mostly appeared as either cameos in The End of Time and The Pandorica Opens or comic relief. Every single episode with Strax. Speaking of Strax, you probably recognize the actor who played him. Dan Starkey is nearly every Sontaran underling who appeared in this episode.
I love
I
Dan.
did notice that.
Yeah.
That's so
I was
great.
like, oh, Starkey's back.
He has really cornered the market in potato heads.
He's very short in real life, for
He
real.
is.
Mhm.
He comes
I've
to
met
Chicago
him. I'm
TARDIS
like,
a lot.
he's like, oh,
Yeah.
I have a good picture with him. I love Dan Starkey.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So it actually mentions what I mentioned earlier. The Sontaran commander refers at one point by name to Lynx, the first Sontaran we ever met, who claimed planet Earth for the Sontaran Empire in the 1973 episode The Time Warrior. He even planted a little flag. They're speculating here, but they say they did not get named in the credits, but I am going to assume that the statue/people in the tendril of Atropos were based on the Greek mythology of the Moirai, or Fates, one of whom was called Atropos. I was getting distinct Sisterhood of Karn vibes from them as well.
Actually, yeah, there are Sisterhood of Karn vibes. I'm not gonna lie.
Just me, or did that cantankerous priest triangle's attitude remind anyone else of sarcastic know-it-all computer Orak from Blake's 7? I'm not familiar with that show.
It does.
What is Blake's 7?
It's a sci-fi show.
I've never heard of it.
It is.
Becky said, see, now I felt I was following this episode way better than the first, but now you're all bringing up all kinds of stuff I apparently blipped over. So, Becky, overall, we were saying that this was a vast improvement. We do think that it was way more focused than the previous episode, but there is still just a lot of weird threads that are just being dropped out there. But I think all of us agree it's definitely an improvement over the first episode. I'm interested to see where it goes. Like, I'm not ready to write it off or anything, but like, it's a 6-episode series, and you're now 2 episodes down, which means our next episode is the halfway point. You have to give us more by the end of the next episode. We have to have a distinct understanding of who the main villains are and what the stakes are. We can't go halfway into a story without understanding those things. That's insane. So that's what I would say about that. Let's see. They say at one point the Sontarans invoked the Shadow Proclamation, who uphold galactic law, first mentioned by the Doctor in Russell T Davies' 2005 relaunch story Rose, and eventually seen on screen in 2008's The Stolen Earth. The Doctor's disgust with humans after General Logan blew up a retreating enemy echoed the 10th Doctor's response to Prime Minister Harriet Jones destroying the fleeing Sycorax in the Christmas invasion in 2005. Yes, it also, I think, invokes feelings of when the 11th Doctor is pissed off about the space whale and says no one gets to talk to me today. That would remind me of that. 12 had a couple monologues like that too, railing against humanity. 9 had one like that too. I feel like most every Doctor, yeah, like 9 was real quick to just denounce humanity. 9 had a very short fuse. Very short fuse. And it says, it was sad to hear this week of the death of Bob Baker, a writer who contributed greatly to Doctor Who, including as the co-creator of the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith's best friend, robot dog K9. Sad. And then the last thing they say, so the next time is Cybermen. They say next time, once, upon time is the awkwardly titled next chapter. Time is beginning to run wild, according to the synopsis, and we saw a brief glimpse of returning Cybermen in the trailer. Excellent. Now, Cybermen are coming next. We've seen Weeping Angels for a split second. I think we will see them again. I think I saw in the next time on, like, someone saw them in a rear view mirror. And at the end of this episode, we end in a similar cliffhanger where everybody's seemingly captured by something and about to meet an untimely end or be defeated. just like the end of the first episode. But in the next time on, we see literally everybody that is imperiled in this moment are completely fine. So it's not really a cliffhanger for me, because I know that everybody, because I saw literally every single person, including the two people that were stuck on the pedestals, are okay and not on the pedestals any longer.
Yeah, sometimes the trailer ruins the next episode.
Yeah.
I feel like the people who make the trailers, who are probably like a marketing team, need to talk to the writery people so they're not like throwing spoilers. Because like I'd be more interested not knowing what next week's monster is going to be.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And logically, we know that they're going to be fine. That somehow the doctor's going to get them out of it, or they'll just be okay without any explanation, like the beginning of this episode. But we know that they'll be fine. Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. All right, let's rank this episode. I don't think we ranked last week, did
Yeah, I was
we?
gonna say, did we do this because
Or did we do this? I don't know if we did, but I want to rank it. Let's just rank them as better or worse than, so that as we go, we can start to see like which one is better. So let's not give it like a complete like right. So the first episode is the baseline. We now have the second episode. Are you ranking it above or below this one? Let's start with you, Crystal.
Oh, above.
Okay, so 2 is better than 1. Steph?
above.
Above. And
Yes.
I also say above. So right now 2 is better than 1. Do you have any, before we wrap it up here, any wild theories from these first 2 episodes? I've thrown out a few so far, but I'd love to hear if y'all have any wild theories from these first 2 episodes.
I feel like the passenger is going to be like related to the doctor in some like direct way. Like,
oh,
that would
sorry,
not
I got
surprise
distracted by Becky. 8 because I think Vinder's hot, so above.
Stop, Mom. I was gonna say the same thing.
That's hilarious. I'm sorry, Crystal. What were you saying?
I don't know anymore.
I got distracted by the Vinder's hot comment. You were speculating something about the doctor?
Oh, I think that the passenger is probably going to end up being like directly related to the doctor in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like an incarnation of the doctor that like doesn't want to die, or it's going to be like related to that other universe or something direct. Because they just like they made sure to be like, oh yes, and passenger, and then just like walked away from like they made a show of him being there. So it wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to speculate wildly because the writing on this show has gone off the rails already. So whatever. But it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I think that there might be some sort of like direct connection there. I think that would actually be kind of interesting.
Okay.
That's what I think.
All right, Steph.
I don't have any predictions. Like I've said before, I like to watch shows passively. I like things to come to me. So
okay. Like I said, I'm wondering if the Flux isn't some sort of like corrupted time, like turned anti-time, that is threatening to unravel time, or that time is beginning to run wild. Comment from the synopses of the next one is interesting to me. When they were consumed by the Flux at the end of the first episode, they didn't die. They just ended up in a different point in time, right? They ended up in, flung from present day to the Crimean War. That's interesting to me. So I think that it's also the heart of the TARDIS did nothing to it. Like, she poured TARDIS energy straight into it to try and like rip it apart, and it didn't even phase it at the end of the first episode. So it has to be something strong enough to stand up to that, which we know is incredibly powerful from the end of the Ninth Doctor's series. So, what's up, Crystal?
Had a thought.
Okay.
We never really got like an actual explanation of why Dan and Yaz like got all glowy and got teleported, right?
Um, I feel like she said something, but I didn't really understand it. Like
She said it was the flux mixed with the TARDIS energy, but she was just like guessing.
Because
right.
I'm wondering if like Dan went back to like a point in time very near where he already like was from. I'm wondering if there's going to be some like weird side plot with Yaz where like that's a point in time that she ends up near in some other roundabout way, and that's why she gets transported there.
That's
Just
interesting.
speculating wildly, because
That could be. That could be. Yeah. What's the significance of the times that they were transported to?
yeah, because Dan was transported like what was it, like a couple of like the day of or the night of or whatever, or a couple days after he went missing.
Yeah.
That wasn't very
Yeah.
long at all.
And strangely, even though time had changed, him leaving and at the point that he left never changed. You know, I would feel like the butterfly effect would make everything very different, but like there was still a hole in the side of his flat.
Yeah.
You know, like everything was as he left it, but a lot of things about history had changed around it. And yeah, so that was weird. Oh, also, what happened to Di? The woman that he was going to go on the date with.
She said, "Fuck this man if he's gonna stand me up."
She's like, I got
But-
ghosted. I'm out.
She said, "I got better things to do than to be in a Doctor Who episode."
Did
She
anything
made
come
a
after
TikTok
her, or
about
was
he
she
was
just?
crap
Yeah.
and then
Did
got on with
anything?
her life.
But did anything come after her, or was she just there at the side of the road, just waiting? Like, did like a weeping angel or something like take her? Like, do we see anything attack her? Like, I don't think that anything like that happened, but I'm trying to remember.
If
I
she
don't
comes,
remember anything like that
if
happening.
she comes back at all, it's gonna be to add some sort of risk to Dan's situation. Like she'll be a damsel in distress or something.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just kind of sick of that trope. I hope not.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for us for today. We're gonna try and get this the Doctor Who reviews. So we were under the assumption that all of them would be airing simultaneously. So we thought that we were going to be able to see this much earlier on Sunday, but apparently only the first episode was simulcast. Now they won't be airing here in the States until 7, and these are like movie length. So like it's not over until like 9. So we're gonna shoot for, I think, Monday nights to talk about the the Sunday night episode. Yeah, so next episode is something about Cybermen. I don't know what the name of the episode is, but Cybermen will be back, and this is the halfway point of the show. So I'm expecting some pretty big revelations in that. So I'm really, really excited about it. Yeah, so check it out with us. Hope you enjoyed our spoiler discussion about this episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.